Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over how to be successful in Fortnite even if you have less than stellar mechanics. Obviously, Fortnite is a very mechanically intensive game, and I don't think anybody would ever debate that. In most video games, the two main quote-unquote mechanical skills are aiming, which is the biggest one by far, and then I'd also argue movement is a lesser mechanical skill as well. But with Fortnite, you have three major mechanical skills in building, editing, and aiming, plus movement is probably even more important in this game than most others because it's a third-person game. And of course, the amount of mechanics that can be utilized in literally every single fight is the #1 factor that makes Fortnite's skill gap so wide. Now, I know that probably isn't the most reassuring thing in the world if you're a player with lower tier mechanics, but the good news is you can definitely be successful if you really know the right way to play. I know this is a bit of an extreme example here, but when you look at some of the most consistent competitive Fortnite players from the last 2 to 3 years, guys like bizzle, zayt, and even tfue, those are players that definitely don't have top tier mechanics compared to a lot of other pros, yet they've outperformed pretty much all of them. So even though the best case scenario would be for you to simply improve your mechanics by grinding creative courses, that obviously is a big commitment and a lot easier said than done. So instead, let's focus on how you can be as successful as possible with average or below average mechanics, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first thing that you need to understand if you want to be successful with lower tier mechanics is actually the situations that you most want to avoid, and if you do find yourself in them, how to at least give yourself the best chance. In the various different types of fights that you can get into while playing Fortnite, different levels of mechanical skills are obviously required. For example, if you're on top of a mountain shooting at enemies below you and maybe trying to build up, that really doesn't require any mechanical skill at all. Really, all you have to do is hold down your trigger and spray your AR over and over and over again, and even though that does require at least a little bit of aiming skill, it's absolutely nothing compared to most other fights. The #1 type of fight that you want to avoid if you have below average mechanics are long drawn out box fights. If you find yourself up against a very talented mechanical player in a close range box fighting situation, it's going to be a miserable experience to say the least. Box fights require so much quick piece placement, editing, and insane accuracy on shotgun shots, it's plain and simple the ultimate mechanical test when it comes to Fortnite fighting. I mean, nothing showcases the mechanical skill gap in Fortnite more than when you see some crazy crack kid do a triple edit piece control play and then insta-flick and hit a charge headshot or something. So your goal is to avoid box fight as much as possible, and that can be best accomplished by just consistently trying to keep space between you and the enemy, either vertically or horizontally. But if that isn't possible for whatever reason, your best counter if you can't disengage is to utilize SMG spraying as much as possible. I want to emphasize that this is by no means a best case scenario, it's actually far from it, but if you find yourself trapped in a box fight against a mechanical god, this is definitely going to be your best bet. Push your body against the wall that's between you and them, start spraying your AR or SMG to break it, kinda pray that you phase through, and if you do, go for an SMG or even tac shotgun barrel stuff and spray. If you're able to do that, not only will it be super easy to hit shots, but it's almost impossible to counter since they wouldn't even be able to place a ramp to block you off if you're practically touching them while spraying. The other situation you want to avoid as much as possible are pure 1v1 build battles for height. Now this one is probably a little more common than a box fight, and I also think you'll have a better shot in a build fight overall, even if your mechanics aren't great, because as long as you know how to 90 and do at least 1 or 2 basic high ground retakes, you'll be able to hold your own against most players. Of course, if you run into a phase sway clone who can do an 8-step retake at the speed of light with his eyes closed, then you may may be in a bit of trouble, but luckily I would say that those players are pretty rare. And the biggest difference between high ground build battles and box fights is that the enemy is actually pretty exposed when building for high ground. All you have to do is catch them lacking for a couple of seconds, and you can make the super low risk, no skill needed play of chopping out the bottom of their structure, and now they're probably going to take a ton of fall damage or maybe even fall to their death. Another thing that's absolutely crucial if you want to be successful with lower tier mechanics is that you need to pay so much more attention to the little things in Fortnite, and when I say that, I mean the aspects of winning a fight that don't get as much love as crazy mechanics. It could be making a smart disengage away from or relocating in a fight that you have bad initial positioning in. It could be having super great communication with your teammates and every single push you make is super coordinated. It could be rotating early during a moving zone to an area of natural high ground that allows you to stormhold a team that rotated late. Those are just some examples of plays that can very consistently pretty much single-handedly win you fights, and they take almost no mechanical skill whatsoever. In the intro of this video, I talked about certain pros that have a lot of success at the highest level of competitive play despite having underwhelming mechanics compared to most people they play against. Well, this tip about being really great at the little things, it's the number one thing that makes them so successful without a shadow of a doubt. Guys like Bizzle, Zayt, and Saf are just absolute masters of communication with teammates, making smart rotations, never getting caught out of position in fights. They just seem to always make the quote-unquote right play. Now obviously that's a lot easier said than done, or else everybody would be winning tournaments left and right, but that high level of focus and game sense is something that you really need to shoot for if you have low level mechanics. The next really important tip for being successful with lesser mechanics is to take advantage of the mechanical skills that you feel best about. So even though you may rate your overall mechanics as average or maybe even bad, that doesn't mean that they're all equally average or bad. Like I said, depending on your personal definition, there are at least 3 or 4 different main mechanical skills in Fortnite, and all of them are used fairly frequently. Plus, you could even break it down further into a bunch of subcategories as well. For example, aim could be shotgun aim, AR aim, sniper aim, building could be something like high ground retakes, tunneling, box fighting, you get the gist of it. So let's say that you're a player that doesn't feel great about your mechanics as a whole, but you feel the best or just the least bad about your AR or sniper aim. It's probably a good idea to try to get into as many of those fights as possible. And to some degree, I think this tip may even overrule the tip I gave a little earlier. For example, I said as a whole it's probably a good idea to avoid 1v1 build battles for height because they require a good amount of mechanical talent, but if you feel great about your 90s and retakes but bad about most other things, then by all means try to turn every fight possible into a 1v1 build battle. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. Let me know if you feel like your mechanical skill is one of your biggest problems as a player, or is that not really the case? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.